Welcome to Wisdom and Elegance. We're here with Sarah Allen as we continue just our discussion on the things of wisdom, the things of elegance. So Sarah's here. She has a question that she wants to address that she's come across, and I know a lot of people have been asking. So what is the question?
Well, to start off, like from a female perspective, how do you date elegantly? As like a young adult, female, yeah, that's a good question.
From the female perspective specifically.
Yeah, we can touch into the male perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say is how to date is, and this is actually goes for male and female. I think we should really first focus on that because I don't want to have one looking at for one thing and the other looking for another thing. I would say that the number one thing that you have to do is know what you want, which is a hard thing to actually do. So most people when they're dating, and it's funny because you're supposed to date when you're young.
Right.
It's when you're supposed to date, not when you're old, but apparently we go against that in our world. So one of the big things is a lot of people date not really knowing what they want. So the first, and this is in any type of dating, but to begin with elegance, you need to know what you're looking for and what you actually want in the dating relationship. So that's one of your big things. Because if you're looking to date and you have no clear agenda, it's going to be all over the place, and you're never going to really know what you get. So the first thing you need to do is ask, what do I want? Now, the big question is, what do you think is, what do I want that would breed elegance?
Oh, well, I would think it's like committed, honest, like a long-standing relationship, like more foundational, like you're looking for a complementary person.
Right. So you start with like looking at long-term committed relationship. So realistically, anytime you come with elegance is very traditional. Yeah. It's spanned culture, time, space. There's a reason that elegance in America is the same as it is in Britain. Yes, I know they're close, but we also can look at Japan and say, in Japan, there's a elegant culture in Japan. You know, you see the guys in the suits, the wives that are have this elegance to them. I mean, there's no wonder that in Japan, for instance, there's YouTubers. Homemaking YouTubers are the most popular from Japan.
I didn't know that.
And it's in Japanese with their culture, but it spreads to America very simply because the elegance spans everything. So when you're looking at elegance from a female perspective, you have to know what you want, and you have to know that, okay, if it's committed, that means you're looking for what? Realistically, you're dating for marriage.
Yeah.
And that brings the foundation for elegance. Now, when I say dating elegant, what is an ideal date for you? Because that's going to be like the question. Because there's the ultimate elegance, and then there's the date elegance.
Right. Well, I don't know if my ideal dates would be like elegant. So I'm like, let's go backpacking. But I don't know. That's okay. I think I like a variety of dates. Like dinner is classy.
Okay.
Dinner's always like a staple, classy date. Like the dinner in movies. That's pretty cliche though. But like hikes are fun. Like I think the goal is just to get to know someone. But it's like, what is the best way to like do that? Like, how do you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like trying to finding a person who is interested in going on dates, but in like a classy, more elegant way, but is also entertaining.
So what does it mean to be a classy, elegant way?
Like you're not going for the hookup. Like I know this younger generation, like my generation, it's hookup culture.
Right.
And it is really frustrating and hard to like find like suitable guys to go on dates with, because there's definitely like Netflix and chill. Like, oh, come to my place, we'll watch a movie. But you're not watching a movie, you know what I mean? It's like there's not a whole lot of like classiness. You're not really getting to know the person. There's no conversations happening. And it's hard to find good dates, you know?
So like a good date.
Yeah.
So because it sounds like, and I would say dinner and a movie is not an elegant date.
Really? Okay.
No, that is That is a horrific date.
Okay.
The only time that dinner and a movie is a good date is for a long-standing married couple. Or a longer standing dating couple, but I'm really going to go for married couple.
Okay.
And the reason that is when you're dating, there should be something that you guys have shared interest in. Now, granted, you could sit there and say, we both love movies and we're like film people, or like we love Marvel, and good for you. That's not elegant. No, so you have that and you can discuss it afterwards,
Right.
but ideally it's really not a great date. And the reason it's not a great date is because it doesn't allow for him or you to get to truly know that person, other than they like this type of movie. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a preference of something that doesn't matter.
Fair enough, yeah.
So what would be better is to find a date. I mean, I would prefer you to go on a 3-hour dinner date. And I know 3 hours is a long time. You're sitting there going, what the heck do I do for 3 hours? If you're dating, don't get drunk.
Yeah.
That's really stupid. But the key is, if you go on a long dinner date, what happens in 3 hours?
Lots of conversation.
Lots of conversation, right? And now you're bringing, let's say this guy's like introverted. Let's say this guy doesn't really have or know what to talk about with females. What if you don't know how to talk to him? Mm-hmm. Well, you know what happens after 3 hours?
Oh, the wall comes down.
You're going to know. And now the problem with this is where the problem is. And this is the joy of dating elegance. Where on earth are you going to have a 3-hour dinner? That is the actual question. Because can you have a 3-hour dinner at Applebee's?
I think they would start looking at you weird. Yeah.
Right. They'd probably be upset.
And ask you to leave.
And I have no issue with the Applebee's song. I actually think it's really good merit advice. Okay. That whatever.
I don't think I've heard it.
Oh, it was last summer. It was I don't even remember. It was, never mind. But I have no issue with the song, but there's a reality that you can't have a 3-hour conversation at Applebee's. You can't have it at Chili's. You can't have it at Olive Garden. You can't have it at anything.
So it implies going to a nice...
You have to go somewhere nice.
But is that like an appropriate first date? Or like...
Sure. Now this is up to the guy. And I'm going to be honest with you, sir. Dating elegance is very much up to the guy. So if I was to tell a guy out there, I'd say, first date, go get coffee. Mm-hmm. It's easy. Mm-hmm. There's an undefined time limit of how long coffee is, but it's kind of defined. Don't go over an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. So you know the thing. Also easier to leave. Mm-hmm. There's no, and it's not easier to leave for the guy. It's actually easier to leave for the female. This is a way to be respectful to a lady. Is if you say, hey, let's go get coffee. You're driving. The guy's driving.
Right.
You can easily get out. It's a very public place. Mm-hmm. Don't go to Starbucks. Go to a weird coffee shop. I don't know. Somewhere weird. It doesn't have to be like nice. It could be trendy. Yeah. But go there and you have that first date. Mm-hmm. Well, if that goes well, you probably should, if you're going to date elegantly and if you're going to be as a guy and actually want something, to move on, is go to a place where you can have a long dinner. So if you do go to, a nicer restaurant, what does that imply?
I'm assuming like formal,
a little more formal. Yeah. I mean, you're probably going to have to get a reservation. Mm-hmm. So the guy has to think in advance.
Yeah.
Like
a skill set.
All of a sudden he's like, oh shoot, I'm asking this girl on a date. Well, I said, hey, let's go out to dinner. We're just going out to dinner and we'll take you to a nicer restaurant. There'll be a longer dinner. And a lot of dating, unfortunately, elegantly, has the guy a lot of pursuing. There's a pursuing in elegance dating from the male perspective, and that's where guys want to pursue, but they just don't know how. In dating elegantly, every woman, if I was to say, if a guy came up to you and you had coffee with him, you like him, you can talk to him, and he says, asks you very nice, I would like to take you out to dinner.
Yeah.
To a nicer restaurant, so we're just going to have dinner. It's going to be a longer dinner where we can really get to know each other. How would that make you feel?
Oh my gosh, so flattered.
Right.
But he's clearly like a capable guy at that point. Okay. I already have good thoughts about this guy.
Right, you're putting yourself up into a
Right.
good spot, and as a guy, you're actually setting yourself up for ultimate success.
Absolutely.
So you go to a nicer restaurant. Now, nicer restaurants and when I say a nicer restaurant, I mean try to find somewhere that, look at romantic restaurants, look at things that on Yelp about longer things. I mean, they are out there. Generally, older people go there. So you're going to see old couples, which is also really good for an elegant date.
Yeah.
Because the older couples will they're very good for you and for the females, because the older women will always protect younger women, especially in elegant places. It is a natural protection there.
Wow.
So you go there, but you set that up. Well, now the restaurant, what do they know? Well, as a guy, I'll just tell you, you're going to stretch this date out. Now, I told you already, don't get drunk. Okay,
Yeah.
so 3 hours you can get really, really drunk on a date. So don't do that. Now, how do you do that? Well, you start off with you ordered an appetizer, and ideally, this is where as a guy you bring in some chivalry with new. So
What does that look like?
who orders the appetizer? And I know this is getting
The guy.
The guy orders
the appetizer.
because one, the male better expect to pay. Like I'm sorry, you better, as a guy, you better expect to pay. If you're like, Craig, I have no money for this, save money.
Interesting.
You don't need to buy a video game, save money.
That's so against like what I'm like understanding like now from like my own generation.
No.
How you should date.
No, but think about this. If you're saving money, what is that? If I say I'm going to spend $150, I know I just said a big number for a date, but if you put movie and a dinner in there, it's about the same.
Yeah.
Okay, because then you have to get in, because you're going to go spoiling at the movie, so you have to get our popcorn and all the other stuff. Well, your movie's now $50 to $60. Your dinner was $50 to $60. It's $140 right there. So it's about the same, and I know it's expensive, but prepare. I'm not saying this is every date. I'm saying this is how you start off dating elegant. So now you sit there. So the guy ideally orders the appetizer. So now you set the whole mood. You already told her it was going to be long.
Right.
You told her this is there. Now you share the appetizer. Now, as a man, do not order your wife or the girl's main course. That is a key thing. So now you've showed, hey, I have some old school like class, and I took charge on something that was, I mean, I'm talking to just guys right now. That's something that doesn't matter. Hors d'oeuvres don't matter. The appetizers don't matter. So you order that, and a good restaurant knows you order your hors d'oeuvres. You eat your hors d'oeuvres. Then what happens? You order your main course.
That's already stretching it out.
They already know how to stretch out. And if it's a place that needs reservations, they actually are expecting 3-hour meals. An hour and a half to 3 hours. That's really what they're expecting.
Okay.
And if you stretch it out as a guy by ordering every single course,
Right.
so now you do the salad, and then they'll bring the salad out. You'll finish, and then they'll bring the main course out. Now you're an hour already into this. You're starting to talk. You're really getting there, and then all of a sudden you get dessert. Even if you are full, what are you doing? You're getting dessert and coffee. Yeah. At the end, dessert and something.
Yeah.
At the very end. Now you've had a 3-hour date.
And you've learned a lot about the other person, had a lot of conversation.
You know dreams, hopes.
Yeah.
You know if you can stand this person. You know if you ever want to talk to them again.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
You know everything at this moment.
So, okay. Hypothetically, it goes horribly.
Yes.
What is the elegant way to turn a guy down if he asks for a third date?
Ask for a third date?
Yeah.
Be honest. Being like, I see, the best way to do it is to just say, I don't want to go on another date with you. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think our personalities click. You were wonderful to meet. You're wonderful to get to know with, but we do not click. I don't see us having what it takes for us to move forward. And I know that sounds harsh, but be right at the beginning.
It like cuts it.
Yeah, and you would know. I mean,
Yeah.
the female's going to know. She's not going to be like, oh, and as a girl, this is a very important thing. As the female in the relationship, as the woman here, don't be afraid. He just said, I'm willing to try this out. You have to, that is not meaning that you have to stay or give him anything for that. It is, I'm giving you a chance to get to know me.
Right.
Well, and that's a really elegant date. Now, obviously, I just talked to a bunch of guys on how to date. Right? The female should know, hey, do I like him? Do I not like him? Now,
And then be the one to be direct about that.
and yes, at that point. Now, so you have this. Now, here's the other key. Don't have sex that night. I don't care if he just spent $400 on dinner.
Yeah.
I don't care if he had whatever. That is not the appropriate time.
I think that's like where this like hookup culture for my generation, like avoiding that with girls paying half for dinner comes from. Is like you don't want the guy to feel like you don't want to feel like you owe anything.
Well,
if you turn him down.
Well, let me ask you a question. Are you a prostitute?
No.
Okay. Is there such a thing as an elegant prostitute?
There is not. No. That I can think of.
All right, I would say no. This is a business transaction. It's emotionless. It's horrible.
Yeah.
If I was expecting, if any guy goes on a date and say, I spent all this money, I would, and she didn't sleep with me, and he came to me and said, can you believe this? I'd look at him and say, I'm glad she didn't sleep with you because you never deserved to have sex. Because you just treated this woman as a prostitute.
Because you were expecting something from her.
Correct. And that's a very big deal. So you have this line where you're like, okay, this guy treats me well.
And he doesn't expect anything.
And I am going to say no matter what. If you want to date elegantly, it means there's a chasteness to elegance. There's a holding what is valuable of you to elegance. Now, this is more important to the man than you actually know. And this is where it gets really fun. Because you would think the guy is like, oh, I just spent all this money. I did all this stuff. I want to get some action.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if you say no.
He's intrigued.
He's safe. You just made him safe.
How so?
All right, so this gets into really crazy dating. In dating, we think about these things. Okay. If you can't be bought for sex and he marries you, what can he trust you with?
You're not going to cheat.
You're not going to cheat.
Yep.
He knows for a fact, intrinsically, that the child you bear with this person is his. It's not the mailman's, it's his. Yeah. Why? Because you proved that you can say no. You proved that you can do all this. Now, you're like, why is this on the woman? This is a really big deal for women, though. It's because guys are stupid and they start to think with their pants. They want this. So you say, no, that was a wonderful date. I'm okay with, a small kiss goodnight, not a make-out session. Just leave. Separate after the dinner. No, and so now he took you home, or wherever your car was, however you got there. Ideally, he'd probably take you home. Don't invite him in. Do not invite him in.
Okay.
in the date, there's a value of landing the plane. Land the plane of the date. You go in, he might stand there, he might walk up and down the street happy as a clam, like, I really like this girl, I don't care. He might be like, I hated her. Then you eliminated that issue too.
That's good.
So you landed the plane and you finished that first date. And now all of a sudden, you know who he is, you know what he's about, you know his dreams, you know if you can talk for 3 hours. Because if a couple can't talk for 3 hours, that is a bad sign.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to be around each other.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it. How are you going to ever share any, details about your life? So you have all this. So now you leave. So this is the elegance part of dating. And for a woman, dating elegantly is very chaste. It's I'm protecting who I am for myself, but also for you. And that's one of those big things. Now, so you have this amazing date. Now, as I just talked to a bunch of guys how to date, and you get this, and let's just say you go out, you have that 3-hour dinner, it's amazing. He drops you off at home. You leave the night, whatever, and I'm gonna just tell you, this is where it gets really, really weird. How do you communicate afterwards?
Yeah.
Because
Exactly the question.
Because you sit there and you're like, okay, if you liked him, you're like, I want to text him or call him
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, but you also want to be kind of aloof, and then I wonder if he's thinking the same thing.
Okay. You also want to be aloof. What the heck is this? No, this is... Obviously, dating's gone so well for our culture, so let's think about all of these things. Okay, so you have that question. Do I call him? Do I text him? How do I, communicate communicate well? Now, if you, once again, I will speak to men, because dating elegantly has a lot to do with men, and we'll get into why later. So, as a guy, one of those things that you can do, and this is a smart move, if you like her, this is what you say there. I will text you when I get home.
That is good.
Now, why?
Well, because it opens conversation. She knows that you like her.
And that you got home safe.
You got home
It's a
safe.
stupid excuse.
Yeah, but it does open the text line.
It immediately opens the text line.
So then what about the next day, though? Like, what is the turnover period for another contact?
Do you like him?
Yes, let's say it went really well. Really like this guy. What do you say next? Like, what is the next conversation? Like, so the female shouldn't initiate the third date, I'm guessing? Keep the chase going?
Keep the chase going. Well, probably not.
Okay.
At this point, there's a reality that if you really like him and he hasn't made it clear, you have to find out.
Right.
You can text him and say, hey, I'm using crash language. Hey, I had a good time last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, don't ask a question. Thank you. I had a great night last night. Thank you for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask a question if you're a female.
Don't ask.
No. Because here's why. Now you're putting him in a very awkward situation. Mm-hmm. Because when you were very kind, you literally just wrote a thank you note. Mm-hmm. I would actually like the thank you. Mm-hmm. It's just like the thank you. If you're going to write thank you cards, you're supposed to do it within 24 hours to 48 hours. Mm-hmm. That is the time of thank you. You can actually do a thank you cards immediately. I've met a guy that I had a meeting with, and I walked from his office, and as I got to the bottom of it was an office building, a lady at the front desk handed me a thank you card.
Wow.
It was really impressive. I was like, that guy is
immediately
neat. So you could do an immediate thing, but 24 hours is acceptable. 48 hours is acceptable. So you have this. So text him, thank you for dinner. I had a great time last night. Mm-hmm. Well, now that's closed. Technically, that's a closed. There's no question. There's no like, yeah. There's no, me too. There's no, you just thanked him. Now the ball's in his court. What the heck is he going to text back? He's probably freaking out going, how do I respond to this? Do I leave it unread for 48 hours? Do I do all these things? If you're a guy and a woman texts you, don't leave it unread. That's just stupid.
Don't do that.
She wants to talk to you. You want to talk to her.
So confusing.
It's just dumb.
It is dumb. I agree.
So you have one day, boom, done. Now you text. Now he's in the court. Now, as a man, what you do is you respond, thank you, in the same way, with a question.
What would an ideal question be? Like if he's interested, how?
Well,
should he
obviously
ask?
you guys had a great dinner, and he knows a whole heck of a lot about you. Something about your life that he found interesting.
And he asked.
So he like you love your dog.
Yeah.
How is your dog today? How did your dog do during the date?
And that shows interest, opens another line of communication.
Right. Now you have all these different things. Now you have to sit there and go, wow, he actually paid attention to me.
Yep.
He knows I like my dog.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that, I like this, whatever, element we're in. Those are some of the ideas that I would do. So now if he responds back with a, good text, you can then at that point then initiate a question, because most guys don't know how to do this. So I'm setting you up for like an ideal situation, knowing that most guys are going to flip out and go, I don't know what I'm doing. And I get that.
Okay.
But this is where, so at that point, you guys can then jointly plan another activity date. Now, it doesn't have to be the fancy large dinner. It can be more of an activity date. Now, that's where a hike is a better option. A hike as a first date, horrible option.
Got it. Because, then you already have conversation built in. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna creepily take a woman to the woods?
Good point.
like no. As a man, is that at all smart? I'm on my first date to be backpacking. Yeah, I'm gonna creepily take a woman to the woods and like put her where she could be murdered at night, and she's carrying a knife in her hand. That's just fair. Not good. Okay, these are not good things. But you can have that adventure side. You can have that more, hey, this is like what we both like. Date. Yeah, and that builds off of the foundation of the relationship. And now you have a foundation that you have elegant things, the dinner, and you can have the not so, or what we don't appear and call elegant now, together.
Yeah.
Even though they are together. So you have both of these ideas.
I like that. That's awesome.
So that's how, but now we're going to get to the reality. Most guys aren't going to take you to a nice 3-hour dinner because they're like, I don't know how to do this. And they don't, when their dads never taught them how to do it. Yeah. Their fathers never said, this is how you date well. Their fathers were never like, I take your mom on great dates. Now, if you are older and you have a son, I'm going to tell you, take your wife on great dates.
Yeah, be an example.
Like for me, for instance, I take my wife on nice dates often. Yes, 3-hour dinners. How do I know you could have a 3-hour dinner? Because I do it often.
That's awesome.
Okay? Yeah. Like this is the reality. So you do it often. So I've watched my sons take their girlfriends on nicer dates.
They saw that as an example as well.
Exactly. And so now they have that built in and doing that. So, but realistically, how you do it. For you, what I would suggest is when he says, hey, let's do dinner. And we would say, let's just have dinner. I'd love to just get to know you. Now, you suggested it. He has to make the decision. Or you can say, what do you think of? Because you want him to have, because for you to be for females to be attracted to a male, there has to be an interesting power dynamic there.
Yes.
Just has to happen. We don't want to admit it, but it has to be there. Yeah. It doesn't mean the woman has no power or control or anything. Yeah. A lot of times what it is that suggestion and that working out. And you're starting to negotiate in a relationship, which is wonderful in a relationship. You're starting to do that. You say, how about we just go to dinner? And if he's like, yeah, that's that. We'll go somewhere nice.
But that's asserting that. It's not giving him the opportunity to take control.
Right. You're giving him the opportunity.
Right. Like, I would like this. Or,
and then you could go and just be like, okay, we have an hour. Yeah. And then you do that. You see where it goes. And at that point, if it goes really well, and he says it's going really well, and he says, want to go back to my place, whatever, because we're in hookup culture land, you could say, how about we get dessert?
Yeah.
And then you're going to another restaurant. And at that point, you just... you have that, see if it's really going well.
And that was a pretty clear shutdown as well. But
yes.
But not in a mean way.
No, not because you like him. And he might not know what to do either.
Right.
I mean, there's the reality that he's just as scared as you are. You just know what you're protecting. He doesn't realize that you know what you're protecting and you're protecting it for him. These are really important things. And so now you have dinner. And now you say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I love this, but let's go to dessert anyways. Now you have dessert. Now you're up to 2 hours. And all of a sudden, then you could end the date. And then you go on to that next date. And you keep that process going.
And then it's pretty clear, the intentions and, the interest is there.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I don't like, if you're interested in a female, I don't like group dates. That's not a date. That is
hanging out with friends.
Yes.
socially. Yeah.
It's way too casual. Because what does that say about your future? We're going to be casual?
Yeah, there's not like the commitment there.
So there needs to be clear dates. Like, I want to date this, I want to date that.
Yeah.
So that's how I would suggest dating elegantly. And, realistically, there's all of those things. And you can watch, and people will love you when you do that. I know you have more questions on this.
Yeah, okay. I love this whole analysis on how to date. But, like, before the dating, how, just taking this way back to the beginning, in an elegant way, how can a female show the guy, because I think a lot of guys are shy and are afraid to, like, make a move or show interest because they don't know where she stands. What is the best way to, like, show, like, make an effort so the guy knows you're interested without being super direct? Like, what's a more feminine way of saying I'm interested in you?
First of all, no, you're going to have to be super direct.
Got it.
And here's why I say that.
Okay.
Back in the day, and I'm talking the Victorian time period, and we're going to go back to the Victorian time period because that's when modern dating kind of began. Before then, it was dowries, dads chose, matchmakers chose, all sorts of things happened, which worked really well, just so everyone knows. It worked great. Yeah, I didn't do it, and I don't really think we should go back to that, but there was a very low divorce rate. But the Victorian era is where we really got the modern concept of dating. And that's England, Victoria time. That's Queen Victoria was a lady. She had this whole time, and that's when you see the dresses and the guys were all in suits and stuff like that. And even though it was disgusting everywhere, they presented well, and they tried to smell good as they could. Yeah. All right. So what would a lady do back then if she was interested in a guy? Do you know?
I don't.
It's very easy. She would drop a handkerchief. Sounds cliche.
Very cliche.
It sounds stupid, right? Mm-hmm. Why is that important?
As if he's interested, he's going to pick it up.
Yes.
Got it.
And what happens when he picks it up? Ma'am, you dropped this.
Yep, he talks to you.
Oh, now there's a conversation started. Mm-hmm. There's an entirety of that relationship right there, that budding relationship. You looked at him, so you had the immediate thought, I am physically attracted to this guy. Mm-hmm. So you had that.
What would you do back then, though, if someone dropped their handkerchief accidentally?
You hand it back to him, and you're like, oh, I'm so glad. But you know how to get out of a conversation when you don't like somebody, right? That's funny. Oh, thank you so much. I didn't realize I'm on my way.
Bye.
Okay, conversation over, right? I mean, it's that simple today. Mm-hmm. But so back in the day, they would drop their handkerchief, and boom, it's there. Now there's conversation. Mm-hmm. So you've already said, I physically am attracted to you. Mm-hmm. He now has that opportunity. Like it or not, he is looking at the woman and saying, do I like her? Am I sexually attracted to her? So you gave him permission to make that decision on his own. Now, that doesn't mean he's, have oogle eyes for you. No, it means he's making the same decision you've already made.
Just checking it out. Yeah.
Okay, so he did that. So he would go in and you would start the conversation. Mm-hmm. Now, that's where that 15 seconds, can I talk to this guy for longer, comes in. So how do you do that today?
Oh, man. You can't just drop a pencil. I don't know.
You can.
You can, but I don't think anyone's going to pick that up. The thing is, from what I'm noticing, like what I'm observing around my campus, most people, well, I wouldn't want to probably date these guys anyway, but most people are always on their phone. Like, if I drop something, no one's going to know.
Okay, so
you know what I mean? Like, they're walking like...
So you have your answer for that one.
That answers that quickly, but like... Yeah, like passing is not an option. Like dropping something and passing, not an option. I can't think of like other than going up and saying something, but that is super direct.
Super direct,
super
right?
Direct.
Yeah.
Is that the option of today?
You can.
Yeah.
You can.
Just go up and be like, "Hey."
You can do the passive aggressive girl thing because you've had years of practice. You can do it on men. And here's what I mean by the passive-aggressive girl thing. Okay. Females hate each other.
Not
yes.
always.
So women hate each other. they do this thing that's amazing. It's an amazing social concept. They will walk up to another female they hate and they will compliment something about that they have, even if they hate it. They'll be like, I love your shoes. I love your purse. I love your hair. It's fine. I don't care if you do it or not. This happens.
I know it happens. I think not every female does that because there's a group of us out there that think that is so low.
But it happens.
Because she knows. She knows it's an insult. It's like, why would you go up to someone and just...
Now, you know what? But the worst part is because you guys, females, generally don't realize that they're doing it also to their friends. People they want to be friends with. That's how you start a conversation.
Women don't do that to each other. They don't do that.
It's very common.
Oh, that sucks. Okay.
So how can you bring something that you've been trained to do? You've seen
you can go compliment something on the guy.
Amazing.
Great.
Wow. Now that's
simple, and I would be like, hey, I like your shirt. I like your shoes.
Stupid, right? There's a reason you're attracted to the guy and you want to drop your handkerchief. You have to do a metaphoric drop of a handkerchief. You have to open a way for that guy to talk to you. So when you drop the handkerchief,
is the guy gonna realize that like it's a initiation of attraction, or is he gonna think you're just friendly complimenting him? He's like, oh yeah, I know I like my shirt today. I picked it out. You know, or is he gonna process that and be like,
what is the purpose of doing this?
Starting conversation.
That's all the purpose is.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to realize why the heck, if you actually like the shirt. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you do this and you end up marrying this guy, he will think you really like whatever the heck you complimented him for the rest of his life.
Be genuine.
Try to find something. You're like, I actually like your shoes. And he's like, oh, I guess I'm wearing Nikes every day for the rest of my life because my wife likes them. Yeah. So, yeah, just know that. I mean, eventually you get old enough in marriage and you're like, yeah, I didn't like that. I just wanted to talk to you. And you're like, oh, okay, that works.
I've been wearing these shoes I actually hated for years. That's funny.
Yeah. So,
that makes sense.
But, make that thing, because all it is that you're inviting him to talk to you. Mm-hmm. Because that initial discovery, that initial conversation has to be initiated by the female for most men. Mm-hmm. If a guy can initiate a conversation with a female easily, they're generally like what we consider players. They generally consider pickup artists, whatever that is, because they've practiced and they're comfortable enough to realize that women are scared to talk to them too.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I can do this and my chances go way up.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's an amazing thing. It's that easy. But now you're giving the opportunity for a guy that might not be there. That might be like, how do I meet a female? How do I do this? How do I start a conversation? You dropped your handkerchief. Mm. And that's just, you start the conversation. Now, if he looks at you and you're like, I cannot stand you right now, immediately. And you'll know.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, yeah, thanks. Have a great day. Bye. And what?
Yep.
No harm, no foul. It's thanks for my handkerchief. Nope.
That makes sense.
But if it is a good conversation and you guys actually have a conversation, I like it. And oh, thanks. And he's like, oh, where are you off to? And you guys start having an actual connection. Then you guys can actually start talking. Mm-hmm. Does that make...
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So that's how you meet the guy. Mm-hmm. That's why in movies they do meet cutes. Meet cutes are what romantic comedy, how they meet. It's always something strange, but if you notice, it's always a time where a woman drops her handkerchief, basically, and gives the guy an opportunity to talk back. Because no woman likes creepy guys just coming up to him and talking to him. So guys, do not walk up to a female and keep complimenting them on their outfits. They will think you are creepy.
Yeah, keep it simple. Keep it simple.
So
yeah,
that's there.
Yeah, simple, short, and then you gauge the situation.
Yeah, and you're making these a lot of... You can bail at any moment.
Absolutely.
And if you want to get out, get out.
Yep.
There's no hang around and see if it's going to get better. No, just get out. You don't have time investment yet.
Totally.
It's better to get out early than late.
That makes sense.
So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then, all goes well from that beginning. It's just going to flow naturally at that point.
No.
Okay. What do you think the major hiccups might be?
Fear.
Fear.
So remember that guys are just as afraid of you as you are of them.
Yeah.
So an elegant woman will promote the man to take action.
What is the best way of doing that?
So you start the conversation, whatever. It goes well.
Yeah, just keep giving him opportunities to take initiative.
Give him the opportunity to take initiative. Now, if he obviously doesn't ever take him,
he's not interested.
Drop it.
Got it.
But give him that opportunity. Set him up to succeed. Hey, oh yeah, I'm on my way to my favorite coffee shop. Fill in the blank.
And he will pick up on that, hopefully.
That is yes. What are you doing? You're giving him a chance to succeed. Now, that actually plays a bigger role into marriage and into you guys actually supporting each other. So if you get married and you started this off, now think about the implications of just that. So you are helping him. Mm-hmm. Okay? He's picking up on signs.
Yeah.
In a good marriage, the male and the female complement each other.
Right.
So you're going to see things. Now, you've already helped guided him, and a good, elegant woman will guide a male in the right direction. And this is some of the things that have happened. This is historical elegance. It is very elegant for a woman to remember every single person's name at a party. Why?
I'm not actually sure.
This is old. Because
Is it for thank you letters?
No. It's so when somebody comes up to their husband, they whisper the name in their ear. Ooh. This is a real thing. This is an old way of doing things.
That is ancient.
It's ancient, but
wow.
Now just think about the power couple that does that, because generally
they'll remember everyone. They'll compliment each other.
Yeah, so she sat there and she's like, okay, my job, and this is realistically like high-powered men that have all these things, and the women used to plan parties, do all these things.
Social, yeah.
It's very social. The woman knows that it's a big deal for her husband to be there, even though he might not even want to be there.
Got it. So that helps him. That sets him up for success in the future.
Yes, and I could say that this happens in my marriage because of my job. There's people that come up to talk to me that I don't know who they are. And I'm like, and if my wife's standing next to me, she'll see them and she will tell me their names. And it's an amazing advantage for me.
Yeah.
And I would just say to be like, how's it going, Betty and Bob? Bob, and I know his name immediately, even though I didn't know it beforehand. So I know it sounds really weird and we're associated.
It sets you up as a couple. Yes.
Now, in modern day, we generally don't do this. But what does that do? He's having a problem and you're like, hey, how about handle it this way? Or, you start that teamwork to start right from the beginning. So you suggest your favorite coffee shop. You give an opportunity for him to come in. Because if you're like, hey, I like coffee here, I'm off to that one.
He's like, okay, what do I do with that?
What do I do with that? And he might say something, if he's at least somewhat competent, be like, oh, I love that coffee shop too. Would you ever... Now he has an absolute opportunity to say, would you want to get coffee?
And you're putting the ball in his court. So
you're serving the ball in the perfect place. You're not just giving him... You're not like playing tennis where it's like you're trying to win. You're like playing with a little kid and you're like, here's the ball. Please hit it back.
And okay, so... After like a series of let's just say he's not taking the hint. And it's like after a while.
How much do you like him?
That's the thing. What if you like him a lot?
Then clearly say, do you want to get coffee? Okay. I would like to see where this goes. Because he might just be that scared.
Yeah.
And in your generation, unfortunately, he literally might be that scared. He might be so petrified that he might need that. Now, the hard thing is when you do that, you'll probably end up not loving him.
Because it's that power dynamic.
That power dynamic is a struggle.
So it's like a hope that he'll step up into it.
It's a hope. and it might be the final of like, I want this. And she wants this. And now I know, so I'm not so scared. And he might jump up next, you know?
Or I guess you could be direct and say, I would like to do this with you. Instead of being like, do you want to do this with me? It could be phrasing.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he could be like, yes,
direct, but it's
no.
also like, you can ask me, and still giving him that power.
Exactly. So now you have that
Got it.
coffee. Coffee will move into the date. If you have coffee and he doesn't ever text you back, and doesn't ever call you,
That was very clear.
just take the hint.
Take the hint.
All right. First, he might like you still, but he's an idiot and he doesn't deserve you at that moment.
Got it. Yeah, because you want a confident guy who knows what he wants equally.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there you go.
Oh,
And that's how you get to that next step.
That's awesome. That was very, very concise.
Very concise. Now, the next thing I would do is, because elegant dating has this really weird connotation, and that is it's only fancy stuff. It's ball gowns and suits and ties. Right? When you come up and if you said to a guy, I want to go on an elegant date,
He's thinking ball gowns.
what the heck would he think
Yeah,
about?
okay.
So there's this next thing, because I gave you the ultimate elegant date of how to do this. Now, I alluded before, the next date could be an activity. And I actually love the activity of hiking. I like that activity of, getting out to nature, because nature's been hijacked from elegance, and it's really weird. But there is an elegant side. So dating elegantly is not simply always fancy.
Yeah.
There's always a fancy element of elegant dating, but it's only an element of elegant dating.
Okay.
So one of those things is, you, as a person that wants to date elegantly, and if you have a guy that wants to treat you well and date elegantly, he's going to get what he wants. You're going to get what you want. It's an amazing thing. And that is, even in the chasteness, and I don't mean sexually, I mean, you're actually going to have that connection, that intimacy beyond sex.
You're reaching, your intrinsic desires
So-
in life.
So one of those interesting things about elegance is elegance historically, because we have gone to athletic clothes all the time. We're more comfortable in lycra and sweatpants than we are in actual pants
Yeah.
or dress or anything like that. These are some issues. Now, historically, adventure and elegance were married.
Do you have an example? I'm
Absolutely.
thinking skiing. That's the first thing I'm thinking of.
Skiing that is an example.
Old skiing.
But even skiing today, I mean, if you go skiing, and if you want to do it to date elegant skiing, go skiing. You've already spent the money. Go out to eat there, or at least, even if you don't want to spend the money, walk around Vail. I don't care. I mean, all ski resorts are kind of nice, unless you go to walk around Breckenridge. I don't care where you go.
Yeah.
Okay, but historically, so this is what would happen. Great places for adventures have great hotels. It's kind of a hand-in-hand thing. Here in Colorado, there is the Rocky Mountain National Park.
Right.
Do you know what historic great hotel is right next?
It's where The Shining was filmed.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's the Stanley.
The Stanley.
So you have a great hotel next to it. Why?
Oh, I don't really know why, but I love that idea.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you have the wildness and the untameness of nature.
I even think about even up here in this area, there's the nice inns, in these really remote areas.
Yes.
It's so weird.
So it's because they actually marry, and they're all historic. So when there's a great adventure, there's a great place to go. Now this is an amazing thing. There's nothing like going on a great adventure. If you go out into nature, even if you go overnight and you climb something, you do something like that, and then that's what I do. I climb with my wife.
Right.
Do you know what I do to bring elegance into that?
Go to the nice hotel.
We go to the nice historic hotel.
Nice.
It's the weirdest thing. So you're going from being in climbing clothes and dirty and disgusting to now you're in, having a nice meal. It's a great time. You're hanging out. You do it before or after, however it works. But this marries each other extremely well. And it's that opposites.
Right. And it's both ends. You get the dynamic in the relationship and Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, because you can't always just be,
Yeah, exactly.
going out to fancy meals and all those things.
You gotta rough it.
You gotta
rough it sometimes. But you learn a lot about a person when you're in those situations when things are challenging and there needs to be problem solving and teamwork. And I think you can learn more about a person in those situations than just at a nice dinner where it's like best face forward. Because what if someone's hungry and stubs their toe? Or like, how do you handle a broken ankle on the hiking trail? Like,
well,
these are life skills here.
So your dates are horrible. I want to go out there and I'm gonna break your ankle to see how you handle it.
Yeah, like,
is that how you're gonna date?
Problem solving.
We're gonna put ourselves in a bad situation.
We go off roading and like unscrew like a nut underneath the car, and a bolt, and like something just like the whole. Something just falls out.
Yes, yeah, awesome, Sarah. That's exactly what you want to know. Don't do that.
Like, do you know about cars?
That's horrible.
I wouldn't do that.
Every guy's like, I'm never gonna date that girl. She's gonna break my ankle. No. But there's a truth there. But there's also when you compliment that,
right.
You have that extreme, and then you're like, oh wait, I do actually feel better about my life.
Yeah.
Because it also gives you both a chance to recover from when you screwed up out in nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So those are kind of those things. Now, the other thing with all this, so you're dating. You're dating with a purpose. Mm-hmm. The purpose is obviously long-term.
Long-term, yeah.
As the woman, be clear with what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're not all over the place.
If you...
It's easy to say no and it's easy to say yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So if you want a long-term, because when you say I'm looking for a long-term, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean I want to date for 6 years? Because that's long-term.
That is long-term. Yeah.
Is that what you want?
No, not
so
for me. But
here's the thing. So now you've been chased. You haven't had sex. Mm-hmm. You've closed that door for his benefit. Mm-hmm. Because now he trusts you. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing thing. Be clear early on, and I'm talking like date 5. I want this to go here.
And see where it goes. Is this potentially something you could say on the second date?
You could, if it's really going well.
Right, because if it is going well, and you know like this might be a deal breaker, it would probably be better to like clear it up right away.
So you could clear. So let's say ideally, in my world, is marriage. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think marriage is a beautiful thing, and when we look at that, that's when you say long term, I see marriage.
Right.
Otherwise, it just doesn't work. There's no protection for a woman. There's no protection for the man. Mm-hmm. No guy saying, "Oh no, marriage isn't protection for me." Yeah, whatever. They're idiots.
Yeah.
It protects you both. There's a reason marriage is, legally binding. It's culturally binding for all of time. Every culture has marriage. There's a reason for that because it protects both parties. So if you want to be married and you want this to go to marriage, on the second date you could say, "I'm dating, looking for a husband."
Right.
Okay, sweet. He might be like, "Oh yeah, I'm dating to find a wife." Well, if it keeps going, that could be date 2.
Right.
Date 5 can be, if you want this to get married, I would like to not date for longer than fill in the blank. Yeah. You probably have a number in your head. It's probably around a year and a half.
I was going to say 2 years. But actually, I think from the best marriages that I've seen, they got married after about a year.
I actually don't recommend dating over a year and a half.
Yeah.
If you don't know you're going to marry that person after a year and a half, you are wasting your time.
Yeah.
Realistically, you probably know if you're going to marry that person after 6 months, but that's okay.
Right. I've noticed that if someone's dating longer than a year, they tend to not really want to get married.
Right.
So it's just like...
Or they're not willing to...
commit.
One of the two partners isn't willing to give up something. Mm. Because in marriage, both partners, man and woman, have to give up some kind of hope or dream or something in their life to make it work.
So they make that decision. It's like, what do you want? And that's where that comes
What
from.
is more important?
Yeah.
Me or the other thing? Mm-hmm. So if it's me, you're going to give up the other thing. Right. And I'm going to give up this thing that's keeping me from you. Those are kind of those ideas. So you can make that clear, hey, I want this there, but then make it very clear, this is when I am going to stop dating and I want to get married. This is also the point that you can make that decision as a woman, because I do not recommend that as a woman dating elegantly. By the way, dating elegantly means chase till marriage. That means no sex till marriage.
Okay.
Historically.
Yeah.
Okay. That is there. By the way, there's a reason there was quicker engagements back then. It's weird how that worked. I mean, we don't want to do it. But, you know, you can also say, I'm dating I'm looking for marriage. The next one can be, I'm looking, at that date, hey, I won't have sex until I'm married. Or, you guys can start having that, because as you date longer, those are going to have to be conversations you physically have. Mm-hmm. And an elegant woman has the uncomfortable conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A fool doesn't.
Yeah.
So you set your boundaries, and whatever the boundaries are, hey, this is my boundary, let them know. Mm-hmm. Because you control that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You control that. And now he knows. Now, let's say if you go with, okay, we are going to have sex, whatever. Mm-hmm. At that moment. Don't recommend it. It doesn't really, all studies show that your life goes downhill, but that's okay. So let's say you're like, okay, and now he knows what to expect. So now you are comfortable, he's comfortable. Now, if you say the marriage thing, he knows if I want to have sex with this woman, yeah, I'm going to have to buy a ring.
Something, yeah.
Which
get a ring, yeah.
That's really what it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a famous comedian. He might have been on the Brady Bunch. No, not the Brady Partridge Family. Sorry, wrong guy. The way he met his wife. So he met his wife. She said, I will not have sex until I'm married. He that night found a priest to marry them.
Wow.
And they are still married.
That's beautiful.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life, and
that's kind of beautiful. Though.
It's kind of beautiful.
It's kind of romantic.
Romantic is not the words I would have used. I'd have been like, you could have probably waited, buddy. Like,
you
wow.
had no idea. There she was, but yeah.
But yeah, so there are those. So that's the other thing. So you have to be honest in those things and know what you control, and that is one that you have complete control over.
Right. Yeah.
And this is where the dynamic's really weird, because you have all the dating and all that dating advice, which was the guy had the control. Mm-hmm. But the sex part, the girl had the control.
Right.
And we don't realize that both parties have control of a major element and have to respect those elements.
Yeah. That's a good dynamic too. That's where kind of mesh. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, that was a great summary.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like I can go forward in my dating life with confidence.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Well, that's all we have. So like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.